Hey friends, it's Somer, and in this video I'm going to be covering Deep Clue Sea. This is one of the brand new Commander Precons coming with Murders at Karlov Manor. We recently got the full deck list of all 4 of the Commander Precons, and each of them come with 11 brand new cards that are exclusive to the deck, including one card that is exclusive to the set, which is Ransom Note. So in this video I'm going to cover the full deck list, starting with the 11 brand new cards exclusive to the set, talking about how they work in the Precon and also how you can use them outside in Commander in general. And then I'm going to look at all the reprints, starting with the most expensive 4 reprints that you can find in the deck. And then I'll cover the other reprints more quickly just to show you what this Precon is all about. And minor spoiler here, I think this Precon is absolutely cracked. It is incredibly powerful right out of the gate. It has a lot of really powerful reprints, and honestly, yeah, this deck is really exciting. I would highly recommend it, and I'll show you why shortly. But before we begin, a quick reminder that if you want to purchase these sweet new Precons, you can do so over at our sponsor, cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. So, Deep Blue Sea is a brand new Bant deck that is focused on 2 main themes. The primary theme is clues, so it's all about investigating, creating artifact clue tokens, and then cracking them to gain additional value on top of just drawing cards. And the secondary theme is drawing matters. There's going to be a bunch of cards here that actually care about the number of cards you're drawing. The more cards you're drawing, the more powerful the effects of these cards are going to be. And there's, for example, a couple cards that care about drawing the second card each turn. And this secondary theme is fueled by the primary theme, which is clues, because the primary activation of clue tokens is to draw additional cards, so they go very well together. So we start looking at the brand new cards, starting with the face commander, Morska Undersea Sleuth. This is a 3-mana Bant commander. It's a 2/3 legendary creature, Vidalcan Fish Detective. It is not a merfolk, it is a Vidalcan Fish Detective. Pure Simic, I love it. You have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate, and whenever you draw your second card each turn, put 2+1/+1 counters on Morska. So I'll be honest here, Morska is not a very exciting commander, at least to me. It's pretty vanilla. It's pretty safe, like it gives you very basic utility. Every single upkeep you get to investigate, you don't have to jump through any hoops to do so. It's a 3-drop, so it's very reliable, and then it grows into a threat slowly but surely. It kind of starts as a pretty decent blocker, and I think that's its main purpose in the deck, but eventually it can get big enough that, you know, you could just Voltron kill somebody. I would say this commander is pretty boring to me. Like, it doesn't do anything super exciting, and yeah, it's very consistent, but it doesn't really have a very high power ceiling for that reason. And I think this is actually an intentional design nerf on this commander because the 99 is just so dang powerful. I feel like if this commander was as powerful as the other face commanders in the Precon cycle, then this deck would just stomp over the other ones. And generally speaking, these Precons are kind of balanced to each other. They're meant to be played against each other because they're all meant to onboard new players. So new players can pick up these Precons and then play against them. And yeah, the 99 of this deck is so bananas that I think they intentionally lowered the power level of the face commander just so the other decks are not completely destroyed by it. That's my tinfoil hat conspiracy. I am not a WotC staff, I have no insider information, but that is my feeling at least. So what do I expect to do with Morska? Well, it deals with, you know, clues and investigating, and that's what the deck is about. And it also ties into the secondary theme, which is drawing more cards. Card draw matters, and so you see this clause a couple times throughout the cards. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get something beneficial. And in this case, the benefit is kind of minor. You just get 2 counters. So what do I expect to do with Morska in terms of like how to build around it? Well, the Precon does a pretty good job of it. It has Joriel Manvuli Recluse. in the deck already, and it ties into that cool theme of, you know, your second card draw matters or draw matters, and I think that's where Morska is a little bit better suited to do it. There's better clue commanders out there, I'm not gonna lie. Like there's particularly Simic clue commanders that are just more powerful and more interesting than Morska. However, there are a lot of card draw matters, second card draw matters commanders out there, but they're usually 1 to 2 colors, and Morska allows you to put all of them in a Bant shell so you can run all of them at once. I personally love Min Wily Illusionist, but it is mono blue, so if you want to run other type of similar cards, then you could put it in Morska. The Council of Four is another card that like kind of works with what Morska is trying to do. When you draw your second card, then the Council of Four gives you another card to work with. And Joriel is the same thing. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a green cat creature token. Joriel is in the 99, the other two are not. But those are things you can do with the deck if you want to move it away from just focusing on clues as a primary theme and focus more on the secondary theme. These are the type of support cards I would look to. The next card that we have is the secondary commander of the deck. It's Sophia, Dogged Detective, and this is a cool Scooby-Doo reference. This is a 4-mana Bant 3/4 legendary creature human detective, and it says when it enters the battlefield, create Tiny, a legendary 2/2 green dog detective creature token with trample. You can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact token, put a +1/+1 counter on each dog you control, and whenever a dog you control deals combat damage to a player, create a food token, then investigate. So this is a really powerful dog commander, dog support commander. It comes with a dog, and then whenever any of your dogs deal damage, you're creating 2 tokens. You're making a food token and you're creating a clue token. So that's already pretty darn good. And then for just 1 mana, you can like sacrifice the clue token, sacrifice the food token, or whatever other artifacts you have on the battlefield, and you can just grow all your dogs and make them a powerhouse, a lethal army. I think that's a lot of value for a 4-drop commander. It gives you access to 3 colors. And yeah, we have like another dog commander with Red and Siri, which is Naya. But this one honestly is quite powerful as well too, and a good secondary option. So what do I expect to do with Sophia? Well, it is a fine commander for this precon, but if you were taking it out and building it from scratch, I think just making it a dog commander would be pretty sweet. There's a bunch of dogs out there that you probably focus on the lower end ones, like the low mana value ones, like Spirited Companion is fine. You know, whenever it's dealing combat damage, you get to make a lot of value out of it, and it draws the cards when it ETBs. Mowu actually has some additional synergy with Sophia, just because whenever you put a counter on Mowu with Sophia's ability, you get 2 counters instead, which is pretty cool. You could also like turn all your support creatures into dogs as well too. So like Sophia as well can generate advantage from her own ability, make food tokens and clues, if you have Arcane Adaptation on the battlefield too. So that's how I would do it, basically just Bant dogs. It sounds pretty fun, and you have a little bit of an artifact sub-theme going on with it too. Looks great. The next card we have is a new finisher for clue decks, and it's a very powerful one. Tangletrove Kelp. This is a 7-mana 6/6 artifact creature clue plant. It has Ward 2, and at the beginning of each combat, other clues you control become 6/6 plant creatures in addition to the other types until end of turn. And like any clue, you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice it, draw a card. This is going to be a fantastic finisher in any clue deck. That's basically its purpose. Is clue decks can dirtle, they can make a lot of clue tokens, but clue tokens by themselves kind of suck. You know, like paying 2 mana to draw a card isn't the most efficient use of a clue. It's more the fact that it is an artifact token on the battlefield that is the more exciting part of it usually. And this gives you a finisher for the clue deck. So where do I expect Tangletrove Kelp to really shine is obviously the 2 best clue commanders. I think Lonis Cryptozoologist is still the queen of clue decks, but the new Lonis, Genetics Expert, is also a very strong contender for clue decks. Both of them generate a lot of clues very, very quickly, and then you just drop Tangletrove Kelp and you win the game, you smash face. Another really cute synergy with the Tangletrove Kelp is Senator Peacock, which turns all your artifacts into clues in addition to their other types. So if you have Senator Peacock, if you have a commander deck that is Senator Peacock, for example, you go full artifacts, then you you can drop down Tangletrove. So that's a cool little synergy between those two cards. Moving on, we have Armed with Proof. This is a new white 3-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, investigate twice, and clues you control are equipment in addition to their other types and have equipped creature gets +2/+0 and equipped 2. Now, I think this card is cute, but I don't think it's a very good card. We've had different versions of the same type of card for other type of artifact tokens. I think originally we had Artillery Alchemy, which is the 3-mana red enchantment for blood tokens. It does the exact same thing, but for blood. And then more recently, we had a better version of it with Gemcutter Buccaneer. It's 4 mana instead of 3, but it is a pirate, so it's on what its kindred type. It's a correct kindred type. It enters the battlefield with a treasure token as well too. And then your equipments have equip 1 if it's on a pirate instead of equip 2, which is much, much better. I think like if you are a clue deck or whatever, you might want to run like Armed with Proof. The only problem is like which clue decks are you going to run it in? You can run it obviously in the Precon, but the Precon isn't like super good at generating a huge amount of clues. I think the best home with this is actually going to be Teysa Opulent Oligarch. This is a clue commander, but in Orzhov colors, and it's very easy for you to generate multiple clues per turn cycle because at the beginning of your end step, you investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. So if you have like a single extort trigger, for example, and you have 3 opponents, you get to investigate 3 times very consistently with Teysa. So this could be like a cute way to equip, turn your clues into finishers you can equip onto your creatures and stuff like that. The only problem is that like equip 2 is really expensive. Like if you had like a Pure Steel Paladin or something to equip for free, then it would be a lot more enticing, but equip 2 is just really rough. But yeah, I think it could be a cute addition in a Teysa deck, for example. Moving on, we have Detective of the Month. This is a 3-mana blue 2/3 creature human detective. It has Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. As long as you have the City's Blessing, detectives you control can't be blocked. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token. This card is just fantastic for like a detective deck, which is like a new creature type. It just came in the set. It doesn't have that much support. So we'll see maybe in time if we return to detectives, a clue themed, this could get a lot better. But for your detective deck, just giving all your stuff unblockable very easily is really, really good. And then on top of that, it also generates detectives, which will in turn be unblockable creatures with Detective on the Month on the battlefield. That's a lot of value for a 3-drop. The only problem is that we just don't have that many detectives yet. So this is a card you have to keep an eye on, and you know, like you could run it in a Changeling deck, for example. I think a Changeling decks usually have better options, honestly, but like, it's a cute card. I don't know. It's cute. Moving on, we have one of the most powerful new cards printed in the deck. This is Follow the Bodies. This is a 3-mana blue sorcery with Gravestorm, which is a very old mechanic that was printed, I think, in like Time Spiral or something like that. And I think it was only printed on a single card, Bitter Ordeal, if I'm correct. And it's a type of storm effect that says when you cast a spell, copy it for each permanent put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. And I misremembered Gravestorm. I thought it was for each creature that died this turn. No, it's way stronger than that. Each permanent put into a graveyard. That's really wild. And what happens is every single copy of this ability says investigate. So you get to create a clue token. So a bunch of permanents are leaving the battlefield. You get to investigate a whole bunch for just 3 mana on a sorcery. This card can be incredibly powerful in the right deck. It's particularly very strong in like any deck that focuses heavily on treasures. Like any deck that wants to run Stormkiln Artist, for example, is going to be generating a ton of treasures on the battlefield. Treasures do not have a mana cost to activate them, and quite the opposite. You activate them for free to generate mana, so you can have like 10 treasures on the battlefield, immediately sacrifice all of them, float a bunch of mana, cast Follow the Bodies, and then go from there, have a blast. Either way, like Stormkiln Artist is going to be absolutely broken with Follow the Bodies, because every single copy of Follow the Bodies that you're making 1 clue token and 1 treasure token for each one if Stormkiln Artist is on the battlefield. Obviously, this card is also cracked with a Lonus Cryptozoologist because it can immediately tap and sacrifice all your clues and then cast Follow the Bodies and then make that many clues once more and then some. And then also like stuff that has like Cracker and Ironworks is going to love Follow the Bodies. You can sacrifice a whole bunch of stuff, generate a bunch of mana, and then immediately follow up with Follow the Bodies, and then you have even more artifacts that you can play with. So Follow the Bodies, absolutely busted card, one of the strongest cards I've seen in a while. It's gonna be a haymaker for sure. Moving on, we have Knowledge is Power. This is a new anthem for Card Draw Matters. It's 5 mana, Azorius enchantment, white and a blue. Creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn. So this is just Card Draw Matters. In decks that care about drawing lots and lots of cards, this is a way to turn that card draw into a way to finish the game, to end the game, which is very fun. The decks I expect Knowledge is Power to work the best in are going to be Azorius plus decks that can draw a lot of cards before dealing combat damage. There's a lot of decks that can draw cards when you deal combat damage, but we need to draw those cards before we actually deal the combat damage. So Marnius Calgar draws cards like no tomorrow, and also usually floods the boards with like 1/1s and stuff that can really benefit from the pump effect. Same with Verena Lich Queen. When it attacks with a bunch of zombies, you get to loot that much, and the looting counts for card draw, and then Knowledge of Power is going to pump them all up. Elenda and Azor, you can do attack, dump all your mana into drawing X amount of cards, and then pump your team for X, and also is a very easy way of flooding your board as well with creatures that will be buffed by Knowledge of Power very effectively. So that's where I think that the Anthem will be most useful in. It's not like super cracked or anything. It's a 5-drop. It's a finisher that doesn't really do anything unless you're drawing a lot of cards. Like, it's going to give you a +1/+1 if you haven't drawn any extra cards on that turn, which is pretty bad for a 5-drop, but the power ceiling of it is pretty high, and it's a cool finisher. Next, we've got Innocuous Researcher. This is a new 4 mana green 3/4 creature centaur detective, and it has parlay, a mechanic that I like quite a bit. When it attacks, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you investigate, then each player draws a card. So attack trigger, you can generate like basically up to 4 clue tokens if you're lucky in a 4-player game, and then everybody gets to draw a card, which is nice too. And then at the beginning of your end step, you may untap all lands you control. If you do, you can't cast spells until your next turn. Now this kind of seems a little bit bad, but keep in mind, clue tokens require 2 mana to crack, and this deck is all about drawing cards every single turn. A lot of them are like when you draw your second card per turn. So if you make a bunch of clue tokens, then you suddenly have all this mana to crack them, and if you're cracking 2 clues on an opponent's turn, that fulfills the requirement of drawing 2 cards on a turn, and then you get even more value out of your cards. So Innocuous Researcher is just fantastic in a clue deck, and any deck that cares about drawing X amount of cards on each turn. It's a perfect slam dunk in Lonus Cryptozoologist and the new Lonus as well too. It's a creature, it deals with clue tokens, it generates clue tokens, and then it makes it really easy for you to actually activate those clue tokens to draw those cards. So really nice card. The next card we've got is Merchant of Truth. This is a new 4 mana white 2/5 creature angel detective. It has flying, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate, and clues you control have exalted. So this is just a fantastic finisher in a clue-focused deck. It's in white, so that means you can't run it in the Lonuses if those are your commander. However, you obviously can run it in this one, and this deck runs a decent amount of clue generators, so you'll have quite the buff there too. But I think this is going to be even more powerful in just the better white clue generator, which is Teysa Opulent Oligarch. You just get something that has evasion, or you give your commander evasion, you poop out a ton of clues, and then you swing in and you try to take people out that way. And it works a lot better in Teysa because Teysa is an Orzhov colors. Orzhov almost always has a sacrifice sub-theme to it. It requires non-token creatures to die, so it doesn't work particularly well with Teysa's ability to generate spirit tokens. But if you're sacrificing other stuff, that will work very well with it anyway. And then we move on to another incredibly powerful card. This is On the Trail. This is a 2-mana green enchantment that says whenever you draw your second card each turn, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So it's basically just like a new twist on like exploration or burgeoning, where you have to do a little bit. You have to draw cards, which is very tough in 2023 Magic and green, I know. But when you do so, you get to ramp a whole bunch, and that is very exciting for many, many decks. So the best homes for it, obviously, it's really good in the precon with clues and whatnot. You can crack them and draw your second card very easily on your turn at the very least. And then if you have enough clues and enough mana, you can start drawing cards on your opponent's turns as well too, and possibly ramping up more. It's going to be a slam dunk in Joriel and Vuli Recluse if that's your commander. And then it's also going to be a slam dunk in Zamona and Dina, which is also another style of draw your second card each turn style deck. So it's going to be focused on drawing cards on your turn and also on your opponent's turn. You're going to be draining people, you're going to be ramping with Zamona and Dina, and then you're going to be ramping with On the Trail. And then I would also just like jam it in like AC. Like, yeah, it's harder in an AC deck to draw cards on your opponent's turns, but you have stuff like Harrows, you have instant speed ramp spells that you could be throwing in, mixing in with On the Trail, and then every single land you're putting onto the battlefield, AC is drawing you cards, and it's going to make it even easier for On the Trail to trigger, and then you get to put more lands onto the battlefield and draw more cards. AC is really broken. Anyway, moving on, we have Serene Sleuth. This is a 2-mana white 2/2 creature human detective, and it says when it enters the battlefield, investigate. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, investigate for each goaded creature you control, then each creature you control is no longer goaded. So I think this is one of the first ever explicit cards to be anti-goading. I think it is the first ever card that is a really good way of shutting down goad metas. So if you're in a deck, or if you're in a play group that has a lot of goad decks and you're getting really frustrated with your creature combat deck and you're just not able to attack the people you want to be attacking, or you're forced to be attacking with creatures you don't want to be attacking with, then Serene Sleuth is a nice meta call for you. I wouldn't say it's very good on its own, and it's kind of hard to build around. I think this is just kind of like a sideboard card for specific goad heavy metas. But there is one cute interaction that I knew off the top of my head at least, is Spectacular Showdown. Spectacular Showdown, if you overload it, you put a double strike counter on each creature on the battlefield and goad them. And that includes your own creatures too. So if you have Serene Sleuth on the battlefield, you can cast Spectacular Showdown, and then when you move to combat, you remove the goading requirement on your own creatures. They still don't have double strike and all that stuff, and then you get to investigate a whole bunch. It's not like super good or anything together, but you know, that's some cute thing you can do together. That's fun. So those were all the brand new cards that you can find in the precon deck, and now we're going to be talking about the reprints you can find in the deck, the rest of the deck list. And I'm going to be starting with the top 4 most expensive reprints you're going to be finding in the deck, and they're impressive, honestly. Like, the reprint value is really, really nice. Obviously, these cards aren't going to hold. They're going to go down as people start getting their hands on these precons, but nonetheless, I'm really happy with what they ended up putting in this deck. So the most expensive cards are Edrix and Nev Twincaster, which is absolutely bananas in any token deck and includes our token, so it works really well there. Benny Brack's Zoologist is a fantastic card draw engine in a token deck, and this is a token deck. And then we have Coma Cosmos Serpent, which is basically an Omega level threat, usually just by itself when you're casting it, but it also happens to be making tokens, which works with the sub-theme of the deck. And then finally, what a better way of drawing cards and ramping is there other than Chulane, Teller of Tales? You can honestly put Chulane as the commander of it instead of Morska, and it will be a better deck, but it will be, less exciting of a deck. Oh, actually, I don't think Morska is very exciting anyway. It would cut down a little bit on the Investigate Matters theme of it a little bit, at least from the command zone, but Chulane's going to be drawing you so many cards and letting you play so much lands extra that you're going to find more Investigate cards to play over Morska, so who knows? Chulane's broken. Anyway, but it was $10 and now it's going to go down and it's going to be more accessible, which is all great to me. All right, now for the rest of the cards, I'm just going to be starting from creatures and moving to like enchantments, sorceries, artifacts, yada yada yada, and we're going to be starting from the lowest mana value to the highest mana value for each category. So Erdwall Illuminator, this is a clue deck. This just doubles your investigate value. Hydroid Crassus, kind of weird. I don't know why it's here. Maybe it's just like a mana sink. Joriel Mvuli Recluse deals with the card draw matters aspect of the deck. So those are the two primary themes. Lowness, absolutely fantastic in a clue deck. Whirler Rogue makes tokens, and now you can tap your clues to give your creatures unblockable. That's very powerful. Academy Manufacturer, one of the strongest cards you could ever put in any sort of like artifact token deck. Well, clue, food, or treasure, and this happens to be a clue deck. Detective of the Month is very, very good too here. Graph Mole, you're going to be arch enemy, so trying some, gaining some life while you're cracking your clues, very good. This is a really efficient card, and I think it's a little bit underrated. People don't value the incidental life gain that you're going to be getting in a clue deck, but it's really good here. Nadir Kraken, this is Draw Matters. I think it's a little bit slow. It's fine, but it puts a lot of chump blockers and makes a big dude over time. But you have to spend a lot of mana, so I don't like it that much. Sovala Explorer Return draws you a card. It makes you mana. That's nice. Talus Tracker, obviously cracked in any clue deck. Ethereal Investigator, also clue card and also draw matters card, so works very well on both axes. Aerial Extortionist is going to be drawing you cards while also temporarily getting rid of problematic stuff, which is nice. Another good finisher, though, is Alondra Sky Dreamer. It makes a bunch of chump blockers for you while you're drawing cards in your Draw Matters deck, and then eventually, if you draw enough cards on a turn, you can start overrunning and killing people. Psychosis Crawler, another finisher for Draw Matters. Wave Sifter, it's a cute evoke clue generator, yay. Essex Fractal Bloom is cracked in a token deck. It will just break the game and people will have to pull out your calculators to figure out what's going on, which is very fun. Kappa Cannoneer, another great finisher in any artifact token deck that can make a lot of tokens. Shimmer Dragon, an amazing cracked card draw engine in any artifact token generating deck. Hornet Queen, it's a nice deterrent for people attacking you. It's usually very hard to get around an army of death touchers that fly. That's nice. Then Junkwinder, absolutely cracked in any token deck. Like, you're just going to shut down the entire opposing board and then leisurely kill them because nobody can block. Thought Monitor draws cards and you can play for 1 mana because of the affinity thanks to all the clues you're going to be making. Tezzeret also works very well with all the clues. Swords to Plowshares is a staple removal spell. I should also note here that the card arts and especially the card set symbols are not accurate. These are not going to be what you're going to be finding in the Precon. The art could be different, not guaranteed, and the set symbol is obviously going to be whatever the Precon set symbol is, but just a heads up. Then we have Disorder in the Court. It's a very cute, like, blink ability that also generates clues. That's fun. Finale of Revelation, it's fine, I guess. I don't know why it's here. I guess you generate a lot of mana with Chulanes and whatnot. Follow the Bodies is cracked. It's not a reprint, but I accidentally put it here. Oops a daisy. Confer Suspicions is just clues on overcosted counterspell. That's cute. Fumigate, it's fine. Farewell, that's absolutely disgusting. Did not expect to see Farewell here, but yeah, that's awesome. Organic Extinction is, I think, a little bit too cute in the deck. You don't have a lot of artifact creatures, so you're just kind of hoping that you have a lot of clue tokens, and then you can improvise and then cast it for like 2 mana, but like, just run like Vanquish the Horde or something instead, or even like a Wrath of God, like just a 4 mana baseland board wipe will be better if you're already going to be killing your own creatures. Ransom Note is cute. Soul Ring, staple. Arcane Signet, Azorius Signet, staples all around. Idol of Oblivion works very well with tokens, so clues, it worked great. Then we got a bunch of signets and talismans. And then we got Inspiring Statuary, which is also cracked in a clue deck. You're tapping all your clues. All your clues suddenly become like Mind Stones or whatever in your deck, and allows you to just accelerate way ahead of the rest of the table. Magnifying Glass, it was like one of the website's first preview cards, I think. So nostalgic, but it's garbage. Flavorful garbage, but garbage. Nettle Cyst, another finisher for the deck. Ongoing Investigation is another card that is great in a clue deck. Killer Service, it's cute. It makes a bunch of food, and we're a clue deck, but we're also like a token deck, so that's fine. Ulvenwald Mysteries Teferis, you crack your clues, you're going to make a bunch of tokens on the battlefield. That's fun too. Mechanized Production is yet another finisher for the clue deck. If you have a bunch of clues, then you, on your upkeep, win the game, hopefully. Search the Premises, very efficient way of generating clues again. And then the final two non-land cards are Teferi's Ageless Insight and Wilderness Reclamation. Insight just means all your clues draw 2 cards instead of 1, so now it's very efficient. And then Wilderness Reclamation is just a way of doubling your mana, but you can only really spend that mana on your clue tokens. You don't really have a lot of flash plays, and you don't have a lot of instants in the deck, so this is basically just a way to more efficiently crack your clues and draw cards on your opponent's turns. And then the rest of the deck are just bad lands. Like, they're mana fixing lands, but they're slow and they're not very interesting, so I'm just gonna skip it. It's the least impressive part of the deck list. But anyway, that is the full Blues Clues deck. I forgot what the Precon's name is already. I'm just gonna call it Blues Clues. But basically, Bant Clues, card draw matters. This is one of the most impressive Precons I've seen right out of the box. It's maybe a little bit light on the interaction, or like the generic interaction. It has the Swords Plowshares, it has the Farewell and stuff, so maybe it's a little bit low on that. But overall, it has so many powerhouse cards, so many staples for a clue deck, a card draw matters deck. It's a very, very impressive list. The commander is the weakest part out of the entire thing, and I think that's intentional just because the rest of the deck is so disgustingly good, honestly. Yeah, the reprints are very good. The land base is kind of the most disappointing part of all of it, and I poo-poo the commander a lot too because it's not interesting or anything, but it's very consistent, and at least it's not going to be an Omega level threat at the table, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, this deck is very, very impressive. If you like Bant, you know, card draw matters, vomit out your lanes, you know, Bant, good stuffy stuff, but you want to have like a little bit of a twist, and the twist is, you know, you get to make clue tokens and you have a little bit of synergies there too. This is the deck for you. This is really good. It's really good. I don't know what else to say. I'm very impressed by this Precon, so yeah. Hopefully the last 2 Precons that I'm going to be going over soon are as impressive. I'm going to have one more of those videos coming out tonight, and then tomorrow will be the final Murders at Karlov Manor Precon preview. So stick around for those. And until then, friends, see ya!